Morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. This is our weekly call for community solutions hosted by the Forbes Funds and GPMP. For those of you who haven't joined us before, our team has hosted these calls weekly since March of 2020 to provide nonprofits with critical resources and updates, a shared space to discuss our challenges, a snapshot of relevant policies, and timely insight from subject matter experts. Since that time, the Forbes Funds and GPNP have hosted 5,645 meetings with the participation of over 48,213 dedicated community members, and we continue to hear from members that this time remains valuable for discussing our emergent needs and opportunities in the social impact sector. For today's call, we encourage you to go ahead and use the chat function to share your name and organization with the group, as well as any comments or questions you might have during today's call. We also strongly encourage you to join us on screen to maximize engagement today. We'll reserve time for a Q&A after our speaker presentation, followed by Forbes Funds and GPMP ecosystem updates and a public policy recap. And as a friendly reminder, there will be a poll at the end of the call, so please be sure to complete that so we can keep our content and resources relevant to you. Today we have with us Ryan Mimidis, Senior Performance and Design Manager with Light of Life Rescue Mission. He's going to share out with us a ton of exciting updates at Light of Life, more about their programming and resources, upcoming events, and recent successes, including his graduation from all 3 AI cohorts, which I don't even know how you do it, Ryan, but we're excited to hear more. Ryan is a Senior Performance and Design Manager at Light of Life Rescue Mission, a faith-based nonprofit serving individuals experiencing homelessness, addiction, and mental health challenges in Pittsburgh. Drawing from his background as a data analyst, church leader, and Marine Corps veteran, Ryan brings a unique blend of strategy, compassion, and clarity to his work. At Light of Life, transformation is more than a goal. It's the heartbeat of the mission. Whether through emergency services or long-term recovery programs, Ryan and his team are committed to creating environments where real, lasting change can take root. With a belief in the dignity and potential of every person, he works to shape programs and processes that reflect both grace and effectiveness. Outside of work, Ryan is a hiker, writer, teacher, an ordinary mystic, and a proud husband and father with another little one on the way, pretty much any day now. So we're so glad to have you here with us, Ryan. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. So glad to have you here with us today. Good timing. Glad that we caught you before the little one comes. And I'm going to pass it over to you to share out with us. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Like Christine said, my name is Ryan. I am what's called the Senior Performance and Design Manager at Light of Life. It's a really new and kind of unique role, I think, in this industry, serving people who are experiencing homelessness and trying to bring a data-centered model to the work that we do. And it's really kind of leading in this area. It's very exciting, very cool. And I'm just grateful to be a part. I've been with Light of Life for about 6 years. Now I started in the accounting department, which is interesting without any experience or background. I build systems, and the person that hired me just trusted me. He was also a Marine Corps veteran. He's like, yeah, he can do that thing. And so brought me in accounting. I kind of created our accounts payable process and moved on to our development database coordinator role, which is just kind of getting all of the donations that are coming in, coding them, and making sure that we understand, what else coming in for us. And then I moved on to our programs in our men's long-term program. It's called our Life Recovery Program, where I was a care team leader, which is like a case manager, for about 1.5 years. And then Jarrell, wanted to bring some data-informed approach to what we're doing here, and then created this role for me. And it's been very exciting. So just a little bit about Light of Life. It's a nonprofit in the Pittsburgh area. It's been serving the Pittsburgh community for over 70 years. Started in 1952, and started off as something like a soup kitchen, and so something that we have to remind people is that we've grown into so much more than just the soup kitchen. Food, shelter, hope is one of the sayings that we've often used to describe what we do here, but that just is not truly relevant anymore. It's so much more than that. So our mission is to provide a holistic path to transformation for those who are hurting and in need, offering more than just a bed and a meal, but long-term solutions that lead to restored lives. So we believe every person is made in the image of God and deserves dignity, compassion, and the opportunity for a fresh start. So what is our unique approach? I think one thing that highlights our uniqueness is just our faith-based approach. So at the core of everything we do is our faith. It informs how we love, serve, and walk alongside our clients. We believe lasting change comes from spiritual transformation as much as physical and emotional healing. So many of the people we serve suffer from addiction, whether that be substance use disorder or some other form of addictive behavior, and often like so many of us as well, really. And something that Jarrell says so often I think is very true, and I'd like to remind everyone, is that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's community. And so that's what we try to bring here at Light of Life, is community. It's a transformative community. We do it through what we call our continuum of care model. And so you'll often hear about the county's continuum of care, which just means that there are many levels and layers and partners that are participating in providing care to people in need in the community. This is what our continuum looks like. We meet people where they are, whether they're coming in for a hot meal or entering a 12 to 24 month long-term recovery program. Our continuum of care includes emergency services, long-term recovery programs, workforce development, transitional housing, mental health support, and more. We walk with clients from crisis to stability and beyond. Our goal is transformation, not just temporary relief. So rather than just providing a temporary solution, we're inviting people into a transformative process. That's our model. Homelessness is often tied to complex issues like trauma, mental illness, and addiction. We address the root causes, not just the symptoms. And so we're not just about meeting needs, we're about changing lives through grace, truth, and accountability. And some of the services that we provide, some of what the continuum looks like is, from the very basic level of just meeting needs. We do still have our meal ministry, which was the foundation for our organization from the start. It's still in existence. In fact, it's expanded. I think starting out, it was just serving dinners, but now we serve actually breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, 365 days a year, and including holidays, and especially holidays. We also provide day room services. So this is a place and opportunity for people who are coming off the street or from another program, from many different places and ways where they can receive some of the basic cares that they need, like getting an ID so that they could try to get gainful employment, birth certificates, social security cards, those kinds of things. Lots of applications that those people that we serve need to require some basic like identification needs. And so we help our guests get those. We also partner with veterans organizations. So those veterans who are coming to us can get connected with services that meet their specific needs, as well as physical and mental health partners who come in and actually serve people through an appointment just to get them connected to either PCP or mental health treatment if needed. We also have like sponsors or representatives from banks come in. So just the very basic need of like getting someone connected with a bank account, which often can be a requirement for receiving some services, right? So we also offer those kinds of things and so much more. Our emergency shelters, we have at the Vetley building location, we have our men's and women's and children's emergency shelters. Our women's shelter is not just a shelter, it's something more, has more programmatic elements to it than a regular emergency shelter will. It's called our Jumpstart program, and it's a 90-day program. It has a total of 18 beds. Women who are coming to our Jumpstart program are participating in classes and groups that are contributing to the goals that they have set for the program. They're also learning how to write resumes and to do some job searching and like all those kinds of basic skills. They're also receiving the meals that they need, and we help them with family reunification processes. It's really a great program. Like I said, that's 18 beds that'll serve 18 women and with their children. We also have a men's emergency shelter. It is a 30-bed shelter for the emergency shelter portion of it in particular. This is a low barrier shelter. You do have to have identification to receive services here just because of the women and children in the same building. Okay, so it's different. We can't just let people in without that just because of Megan's Law type of requirements. But it is still very low barrier. We also have a shelter plus, which is a 12-bed kind of portion of our emergency shelter. This is where people are either currently working but without a house situation, or they are looking for work. So there's 12 beds for that. And we also have, during cold winter months, a 20-bed overflow for people who are we set them up in our chapel, like kitchen area or dining room area, just 20 extra beds, people come out from outside freezing temperatures. That's for the men. We also do have 5 additional beds for the women for the same purposes. So from that, you can see in this continuum, we have this basic services or meals and identification into shelter. So it's the next level of commitment to transformation process. It's just getting shelter. And then from our emergency services from our Bentley building, you can move over to our Ridge Recovery Place. It's a facility that just opened up last year, in the beginning of the year. It is where our long-term recovery programs are housed. We have men's and women and children's long-term recovery programs. And our men's residential programs, the men actually live in the building. There are 20 beds for what's called our life recovery program. This is where men are engaging in all kinds of educational opportunities and recovery programs and receiving their meals, actually, breakfast, lunch, and dinner from our kitchen that's at Ridge. We also have the mental health program. That's another aspect of our men's residential program. There are 8 beds for our mental health program. Now, what's true about both of these programs is that most people who come to us are experiencing substance use disorder and potentially have a mental health diagnosis. Now, it's just the reality. So even though we call it a mental health program or a life recovery program, just the needs are great in those areas for everyone that we're serving. It's just the current situation right now, people who are coming for help. We also have what's called our high commitment shelter. Now, this serves in more of a long-term capacity as an extension of our Men's Shelter Plus program. So those who are just coming and who have jobs or finding jobs, who need shelter, who want to take a more committed approach to their recovery and their transformation, they will get transferred to our high commitment shelter, which is a long-term program. We also have a transitional house, and this is just a 4-bed house that is an extension of our men's program. It is for those folks who are almost graduated through the program, who are wanting to experience a little bit of self-sustained living. They're responsible for their transportation to and from their appointments and their programs, whereas maybe they received more help for those things in the other aspects of the program. It's just a great way for the guys to get a taste of that experience of doing a lot of more work, taking more responsibility for their own living, independent living. We also have in our Ridge Recovery Place our women's and children's long-term program. Now, this is a up to 25 scattered sites, which is like apartments that we help the ladies to lease program. Okay. The women do not live on site in our Ridge Recovery building like the men do. We have scattered sites opportunities. We also have now 2 sisters house opportunities. These are for single women without children. We used to have just one for many years. We just opened a new location on Federal Street. I believe it has 14 beds. And so we're expanding our women's and children's capacities. We also have a great children's program that my wife actually runs here. So like Christine was saying, she's pregnant and, we're
Hi, good
expecting
morning.
our
I was
second.
wondering, I was in last night and there was no toilet paper, Kirkland toilet paper
Oh,
out or
sorry.
any. And I was just wondering if you all got a shipment in
Sorry,
today.
1 second.
Getting.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. So like I said, the children that come into our women and children's program do not come on their own. They come with their mothers. Okay, so it's just an extension of our women's program, but there is programming actually available where we do some parenting classes with the mothers, teaching them just how to parent. We have a sensory room up there for those who have those needs. It's really great. It's really wonderful to watch the children's side of that turn more from a day care type of a service to now like having programmatic elements which meet some of their needs. It's very wonderful. So that's the basics of our emergency shelter, our day room services to our emergency shelter services, and then to our long-term programs. We also have a lot going on through what is called, let me find my place here, through our operations team. So our kitchen is part of our operations team instead of our programs team. And so our kitchen, our operations team, provides all of the meals that are served to our emergency shelter guests as well as our long-term program guests. But they also have a donation center as part of the services they provide, and they have a free store which people can come and shop without having to pay any money. It's a very great human experience to come have a shopping experience without having to pay any money, just through appointments. There's also the partnership that is pretty new for us at Light of Life. It's called with Off the Floor, and it is a furniture service. Yeah, it's great. See some thumbs up there. Yeah, it's really wonderful opportunity for people who don't have furniture to come and get their apartment furnished for free through us. And so we have these things were housed. I mean, Off the Floor is separate location just because of the warehousing needs, but our donation center and our free store were both here at the Ridge Recovery Place. We've had to temporarily shut down our operations because we're moving into a new outreach center. So we're just calling it the hub here at Light of Life. It is directly across the street from our Vetley Emergency Services building. This is a and as well as our food pantry, I should say, they'll be there as well. This is a great time for us where we get to have all of these operations, outreach type of services housed in a single location, just providing all of those goods and services to people who need them out of one facility. So we're very excited about that. I think we have a ribbon cutting coming up very soon. I believe that this facility will be open on April 28th. So just a couple of weeks away. We'll be opening that new facility. Just some of the impacts that I wanted to highlight. This would be through all of our services, and I'll finish off with some directly out of the operations side of things. But over 3,100 unique individuals were served through our emergency shelter last year, with over 500,000 meals through our kitchen and food pantry. and over 500 pounds of food distributed through that food pantry. So it's a huge impact that's happening. Nearly 30 people impacted through our donations, or 30,000 people, I'm sorry, 30,000 impacted through our donation center, countless hours of counseling, mentorship, life skills training. And through our new partnership with Alpha, we furnished over 600 households last year, which is really awesome. Served over 1,500 individuals and delivered over 8,700 items. And a really cool fact that I seeing here is we kept over 200 tons of furniture out of landfills. That's awesome. I think that's really great. The last thing I wanted to do here, let's see here. As part of our food ministry, the director of operations asked me to tell you all that the CCAC nutrition program that we were partnering with it's a new dietary program that's becoming a part of our just the services are provided the long-term program. It's a student assisted the kitchen team in identifying ingredients and recipes that elevate the nutritional value of the menu offerings in a Ridge Recovery Place building. This past winter, the student taught classes for the clients in our Women and Children's program. The classes focused on reading nutrition labels on packages and learning how to shop the perimeter of a grocery store for fresh whole foods. They also learned how to monitor their biometrics and how to avoid costs high in fat and sugar. If you know anything about the location of our Ridge Recovery Place building, it's on the same street, just at the very end of the road where CCAC is located. And so we've really been trying to connect with them in impactful ways to bring a lot of the things that they're teaching the students that come there, who will have opportunities for, practicum, right, for practicing what they're learning, to bring that practice here to Light of Life overseen by professors, so that we can just not only receive that benefit of the collaboration, but also then have an entry for the people that we're serving into educational opportunities at CCAC. It can be a really great exchange that exists. And then lastly, I highlighted that we will be moving into that new outreach center here at the end of the month. Something that's really cool about what we're doing with that outreach center, and something that we've done in our long-term program as well as in our shelter facilities, is bring in trauma-informed design teams to help us to design the locations that meet the needs of those who have experienced trauma. And so I think that's very cool to have something like just a donation center, food pantry, free store type of services, having trauma-informed design incorporated into the facilities. So very cool stuff. I'm going to share a screen here very quickly and just show you our website and how you can get connected with some, let's see here, here we go. Okay, great. Christine, you got me?
Yep, we can see you.
Okay, very good. All right. The Light of Life website. It's a great website. It's very informative, lots of information. We've made a lot of progress. Our marketing team has done a great job of getting our website together. If you go to www.lightoflife.org, that's where you will find more about our mission, even our financials, our impacts, the how you can volunteer with us, more ways to give, careers here, as well as the events, and then our locations page here. I'm going to highlight some things in our events. Let's go to our events page. So some upcoming events that we have going on at the mission. April 18th, we have our Good Friday outreach. It is where we'll package and distribute meals to those facing food insecurity in local high rises. We've been doing this for a number of years, and there are thousands of meals that we hand deliver to these high rises, to people who may not have the mobility to come to us and to receive a meal. So it's a great opportunity for us to make another connection. We also have the 2025 Pittsburgh Marathon. So if you're a runner, I wish I was a runner. I'm not a runner, so I'm not going to do that. But if you are a runner, come join, come run for Light of Life at our marathon. We have this event that's really cool. It's called Over the Edge. It's a fundraising opportunity. Let me pull up the page here. So Over the Edge is we're trying to raise $65,000 for the mission, and so the first 76 people who raise a minimum of $1,000 will earn a spot to go over the edge. And I forget which building this is. Let's see, down the Heinz 57 Center. You can rappel down the building. Wild. But yeah, so there's some cool things like that that are fundraising opportunities, as well as our annual Tunch Ilkin Memorial Golf outing. We also recently lost Craig Wolfley, who Tunch and Wolf were just such a huge part of supporting our mission. Tunch was on the board for so many years. We now have this memorial golf outing to kind of honor him, as well as to raise funds for what we do here at the mission. Craig Wolfley was known to say, I think this is just our second or third golf outing, but Craig Wolfley got the greatest kick out of us having a Tunch Ilkin Memorial Golf outing because of how much Tunch hated golf outings. And so it's just one of those very funny, ironic things that we're doing here that Craig assured us that Tunch would get a kick out of. We also have our gala that's coming up. That's in October. It's this fall. If you want to be a part of that, you can head over to our website and just go to the Join Us and go to the events and see what all's going on here at Light of Life. One other thing I wanted to highlight here is our participation in the recent AI for Social Impacts cohorts that I was really fortunate to be a part of. There are 3 different cohorts, and each providing just different opportunities, educational opportunities for what AI is capable of doing, how you can launch something like a Skilly from SkillBuilder.io on your website, how you can leverage AI for connecting in greater ways with your donors and with your communities, and some of the ways that we are using AI here at Light of Life after these cohorts. There have been projects in the past, times where there have been projects that seem like a heavy lift for us to complete, right? Where we would maybe consider consulting with an organization who provides a specific skill set to us. We're finding that through the use of AI tools, we're not having to do that as much as to go find a consultant and say, hey, help us do this thing. We're starting to do some of these things on our own. And this was a great benefit to be part of that project. And yeah, so one way that in our programs that we are utilizing it, like I said, my role is to bring a data-centered model to the services that we provide people who need help. And so we are creating logic models, theories of change, things like this, the structures that help us to understand the people who are coming to us, the most effective pathways to success, to transformation, to try to see what research is saying about the impacts that are most likely to lead to long-term success, creating percentages around these kinds of things, goals, and goal tracking, data tracking, in order to measure success of our programs. And AI has just been such a great lift, using things like Perplexity, literal research assistant, to find what the stats are that can help us to build out these structures according to just live real data, rather than just what our expectations are. It's very exciting. We're also in a project now updating since COVID, just post-COVID, world we live in now, our infectious disease protocols for our emergency shelter and for our long-term programs. It's just wonderful to be able to use those tools to do the research, to give us updated information on what are the standards and protocols that we need to put in place. I can go ahead and stop sharing here. Wait. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about, very briefly, our Skilly, like I said, skillbuilder.io is run by Kit and Adam, and they are just so helpful and informative. Bringing this tool that is like a virtual employee, it's a virtual agent that we have now embedded on our website. So apart from our website already having a lot of great information, now you can navigate, if you can see my cursor here in the bottom right of our webpage, and then chat with Hope. She is our virtual employee who you can just talk to like a human and find out anything that it is that you're looking for to know about Light of Life and services we provide. It's just so helpful. Yeah, to have partnered with Emily and Christine and Adam and Kit to bring these tools and this technology to our organization. And that's about all I had for you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And you've
Yeah.
certainly been a huge champion of all of that. I'm so glad we had a chance to pause and hear all about what Light of Life has to offer. I know that a lot of us do get that sort of soup kitchen tunnel vision of what is really available, and there's just so much and such a holistic transformational approach. Um, I'm sure that everyone in this room, whether it's clients or family members of our clients, I'm sure there's someone who can use these resources. So thank you for sharing them. I wanted to ask you, we did have one question in the chat, but I wanted to start off by asking, as far as point of entry, does it look different if someone is coming in for crisis services versus something a little less crisis and more on the continuum? What does that
Yes.
initial point look like, entry
Sure,
point?
yes, absolutely. We have front desk staff who are available all the time at our emergency shelter, and we have an outreach team. We call them, an outreach team. This is not to be confused with our outreach center, which is going to house some of those gift in kind operations. But our outreach team, they kind of man these day centers, so people coming in off the street in crisis can meet and talk with a person live. And yes, there are different barriers for entry, I would say, for our long-term recovery programs. You can contact our intake specialists in both our men's and women's long-term programs, and they will talk to you more about the application and what the requirements are. We do have some clean time requirements for our long-term programs. This is just to ensure the safety of our community. Right, we have just a standard that people have to meet in order to begin that journey with us. But like I talked about in our continuum of care model, there's no wrong door. So if you're coming to us for help, just come. And we have in our main line, we have someone named Sue. She is wonderful. She's a hospitality specialist. We'll get you to the right person. And I believe that number is 412-258-6100. Just call our main number. She will get you to the right person describing your needs of the services, the state that you're in right now, and what you're looking for. But we also will do referrals. If we can't specifically or directly meet your need, we will refer you to a place that can. And so I think that's we're not just going to tell you no. Hey, we can't do the thing. There's no room for you. We're going to say, hey, let's help you get to the next right place. Yeah.
I love that. Wonderful. Okay, so we also had a question from Deb regarding what your greatest challenges are as an organization looking at the rest of 2025 right now. What's top of mind?
That's a great question. I'm sure that answer is different from any of our 100 staff here at Light of Life in the different areas that they serve. I think that from my perspective, and that may be just the best way for me to answer this question is how do we as an organization learn how to track the information that's necessary for us to understand what what the primary needs are, what the most basic, and then those transformative needs are in our organization. We want to understand the people who are coming to us for help in their situations. And so I think what we saw with COVID is just a shift. There was an increase in homeless population in our area. And there's also a great increase in mental health challenges. And so I think organizationally for the people that we serve, that's one of the reasons why we became this hub for referring people out to the needs that, or to the services where they can have their needs met. Mental health is a great challenge in our community and and for the people that we serve. And so I would say that that would be a great challenge for us as an organization is serving the needs of those people.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think that affects all of us in our work. And it seems like
Yes.
resources, the need for
Yes.
it is growing and the resources are shrinking. So,
Mm.
knowing of organizations and places where that's available, that's very valuable. And I also really appreciate that you guys recognize where you're not necessarily the experts or where you can redirect someone to get exactly what they need, rather than just saying, no, this place isn't for you. So, I would encourage anyone on the call that's listening, if you have ideas for how you might be able to partner with Light of Life and expand on those services or pipeline clients, anything like that, I would definitely encourage you to do so and connect with Ryan after this call.
For sure.
Any other questions? Let me double check. No hands up. Ryan, I did want to ask you about your impressions with the AI cohort, how you
Mm.
started versus how, as far as your perspective on things, and versus how it was at the end. I know you went through all three cohorts, which is a very intense load, but clearly you
Yeah.
learned a lot on the on the very, in the various, we talked about very different things in each of those cohorts. So I'm interested just to hear where your mind is at
Oh
going from A
yeah.
to B. Yeah.
Going from A to B. It's just that initial coming into it's like, you know, yeah, this is going to be a great project. And then once Adam starts just giving you all of the information, it's like, oh, okay, this is intense. There's a lot here. This is going to be so helpful. I mean, just he's so bright and just such a great teacher of these things. Of all the tools, the way the applications of the tools, just the three cohorts, opening three different worlds into how you can apply AI technology and tools in what you do. I think I think what I experienced going through all three was a little bit of overwhelm. It's like I want to do everything right now. I want to use these tools all together at once. I have these big ideas, this vision for like how we're going to incorporate all of these tools. But what I found is just that some of the very practical ways that you can begin to apply just some digital whiteboarding and some prompt engineering for connecting with ChatGPT or whatever it is that you're using to do some five whys root cause analysis. There's some very practical applications to the utilization of these tools that can just do such a great heavy lift off of you, the burden of just being the content generator, the creator, like the innovator, whatever it is that you're needing to be, to have these tools available to work with you in your projects. It's just such a relief. I find, and this is just how I function, it's I talking to these AI tool like chat and perplexity like a human. I'm doing processing of like my own baggage, the weight that I feel of the pressure of like performing and like all of that kind of stuff. When you're sharing the project that you're trying to work on, what you're trying to create, and you're telling this virtual assistant like what it is that you need and asking it questions for what do you want to know to help me build this project. It's just a great stress pressure relief as well. Yeah, it was such a wonderful experience. I'm so grateful for it. The impacts that we're gonna have that are gonna be had at Light of Life. We don't even know fully yet how this is going to help us. But just even in the small ways, like I said, infectious disease protocols, logic models. There's just such a joy I see in people like engaging with these tools that I've been training since the cohorts. Yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to
Yeah.
hear that. Good thing it was a good answer because I asked on the spot. No, no, like I said, you were such a champion of this, and I'm so glad to hear that. I share those feelings of there's a mix between these incredibly overwhelming new systems and techniques that will probably take me another year to explore, but in the same
Mm.
token, these very practical things that I
Mhm.
went directly home and applied immediately. And, the same with my coworkers and my team and even volunteers I work with at other organizations. So it felt like something that we could really apply immediately. I'm glad that you got that out of it. I also love that you pointed out how it helps us become experts. I have used that example so much of, for example, building out an app and understanding, what you need to be asking from a software developer and things like that is very empowering to have these tools as nonprofit leaders. So great to hear that. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing everything about Light of Life. We're excited to see you at the upcoming events. Check out the website if you all are interested. And thank you so much, Ryan. Good
Yeah,
luck
thanks for having me.
with the
Thank
new
you.
one coming along. And I am going to invite Hannah to come and join us for a couple ecosystem updates. Let me share my screen.
Thank you, Christine. Hi, everybody. This is Hannah. I am the Chief Program Officer here at the Forbes Funds, and I also direct our grant making program. So I wanted to just take a moment to share out that we're going to be having a grant making information session on Tuesday, tomorrow, at noon. That'll be about a half hour long. It is filmed as a webinar. So if you are unable to attend tomorrow but would like to watch the recording, go ahead and register and we'll make sure we get that out to you. This Max information session is something that we do quarterly here at the Forbes Funds. However, since Q1, we've seen a significant, almost 500% increase in our grant requests. And so wanted to ensure that everybody beyond folks applying just now for a management assistant grant had the opportunity to learn about the program, how to apply, what we fund, and how that process and processes work. So I know that Christine is going to drop the link to register in the chat. Feel free to join us tomorrow. And I'm available at any time if you want to talk about the Forbes Funds grant making programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And actually, I believe we have, yes, a slide as well for the transformative leadership cohort. Would you like to?
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'll drop
Absolutely.
the link.
Yeah, transformative leadership. This is a cohort that I teach alongside Fred for the Forbes Funds. We're in our third year and have graduated 4 or 5 cohorts now. We work directly with First Tee Pittsburgh over at the Arnold Palmer Golf Course in Oakland. We're out there on Wednesday mornings. We golf with professional golf trainers and coaches for about an hour and a half, and then we spend an hour in the classroom together talking about transformative leadership and learning the skills and practices that go along with transformative leadership, how we define it. We're going to be having a golfing happy hour event in May to gear up for that cohort. This will be an event open to the public. You'll get to learn about First Tee, all the services and programs that they provide as a nonprofit, and then about the Forbes Funds and our programming as well. So we'll be sure to keep everybody up to date on this call about that happy hour event, and we hope that you can join us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I am going to go ahead and pass it over to Emily if you'd like any links for the events mentioned before, they are in the chat. Emily?
Thank you so much, Christine, and thank you, Hannah. And I'm going to switch to sharing my screen real quick, if that's all right. So we have quite an exciting announcement this morning. This is the first time anyone is hearing this information. So with that, please direct your attention to the chat because our 20th anniversary of GPNP is actually going to have 2 themes. So first of all, the content theme for the summit is AI advocacy and action, shaping the future of policy and social impact. But we know that in this year of uncertainty, unprecedented times, whatever you'd like to call it, how we do this work matters more than ever. And so we'll have an in-practice theme of convenings leading up to our summit that is has an undercurrent of we can't do this alone. And so very intentionally for everything between now and December 4th through 6th, which will be the culminating event of the summit, where we'll have workshops and a gala and award ceremony celebrating and looking back in the last 20 years of GPNP, and also critical conversations highlighting really important developments and partnerships taking place in the present. We'll be looking at how AI advocacy and just getting things going, starting to move, even though we know we have to be adaptable. We know we don't have all the answers, but getting that momentum going is the most important thing possible, because we really do need to reshape how the social impact sector is seen. You can hear it a little bit in the policy updates I'll share today regarding our local mayoral elections and how nonprofits are being discussed in terms of the campaign conversations, but really in terms of how we operate as well. The majority of work that is done for society through government is through nonprofit contracts. The number of organizations who are, or that are businesses, whether small businesses or corporations, the way that they impact their communities is through nonprofits. And so there's a very symbiotic relationship in terms of how communities actually shift, and how the last 20 years have really spoken to the importance of a unified and collaborative nonprofit sector. And that's why we'll have an active call for speakers open now, again, where the theme is AI advocacy and action, shaping the future of policy and social impact. But really the lead up events and the intent of a lot of our convening time together is going to be, we can't do this alone. We shouldn't do this alone, really leaning into, the same energy that created a problem cannot be utilized to fix it. And also, the answers to all of these challenges do not exist in one sector. And so as we're thinking about reshaping communities, as we're thinking about, reshaping how we do our work, we really can't do this alone. And so regardless of what the solution looks like, really leaning into how we can build trusting relationships and collaborate more effectively. We'll have some pop-up announcements over the next couple of weeks. I will get to introduce you to our new AI colleague, whose job it is exclusively to clarify any questions or needs for information about the upcoming summit. But the biggest thing for you to know right now, thank you so much, Christine, for putting the link in the chat. We do have a live call for speakers. This is the first application, and that's why it's called the first call. Again, we're going to have a series of information sessions, lead up events, another AI cohort as a lead up to the summit. But this is the first call to really hear from nonprofit leaders, from consultants that we work with, from anybody and everybody who's an expert in Southwest PA or beyond, that has something to offer our local sector in this 11 county region. What are the things that really fuel you? What are the things that you need addressed right now? And how can we make sure that that makes it into our lead up events and the culminating event for the summit this year? So much more to come. But I did want to lead with that exciting announcement this morning. So please check out the call. Please nominate your friends to speak, or send the link to them if you know that their content or topics is really going to get the crowd participatory and excited about the summit this year. But we'll have a much more exciting announcement up soon. But again, thank you for your time and attention on these calls for community solutions, and we really want to make sure that you all are the first to know. All right, into the usual policy update programming. So we did see on April 1st last week 2 really significant elections. So the first was the 2 Florida House seats, District 1 and District 6, for the U.S. House. And these elections were pivotal for both major parties. The outcomes did influence the balance of power in the House. It didn't shift anything because Republicans Jimmy Patronis, who is District 1, and Randy Fine did successfully defend those seats, which was expected given their ratings. But one thing that is really critical to mention in terms of shifts that are taking place since the November election of last year is that there's a pretty large gap in terms of not only voter turnout, but also how the votes are coming through. So President Trump won in key counties in Florida by a pretty significant margin, while Jimmy Patronis did win in his district by large margins. They're significantly less than the presidential election of last year. Same thing for District 6 in Florida. Additionally, the Wisconsin Supreme Court election did result in a flip where Susan Crawford ended up winning the seat against conservative candidate Brad Schimmel. And this was a really critical race to watch because, one, it is the most expensive judicial race that has ever happened in U.S. history for a state Supreme Court seat. Spending exceeded $100 million because there were huge back the aisle. And there's a very clear backlash to the actions of DOJ and some of the policies and executive orders from President Trump, because Susan Crawford won the state by 10 percentage points, which is pretty significant, and very similar to this rating for the voting and how things came in Florida. Brad Schimmel's results were significantly behind President Trump's vote from 2024 in every single county in the state, which again is pretty unheard of. And so with increased voter turnout in comparisons to the 2024 election, this does seem to signify a pretty big shift away from the current administration in terms of public input and approval ratings. And we've seen that in President Trump's approval ratings decreasing as well. So again, now more than ever, we're really leaning on sharing resources and making sure that the political climate is responsive to the needs and talking points of nonprofit organizations. The National Council of Nonprofits mentioned a ton of resources in their last webinar that was specifically about advocacy. And I can link the slideshow in the chat in just a second as I'm finishing up with the policy update. But the biggest thing is to contact elected officials, yes, as a constituent, on your own behalf, but also on behalf of those you serve, and really share how policies that are being put forth at the state and federal level are impacting your constituents. You don't have to have a specific ask or recommendation, since that's more in the lobbying plane. But if you would like to raise awareness on a specific issue, do it. I'm going to go through a couple of them right now. So looking at the federal budget, we've looked at some of the things that are going to be required to pass a budget, like the stopgap measure that we saw earlier this month. But the U.S. Senate has approved the Republican budget put forth that aims to extend the 2017 tax cuts from the previous Trump administration, increase funding for border security and the military, and reducing government spending across a whole host of different areas. The plan now moves to the House of Representatives for consideration. This would make permanent the tax cuts introduced in 2017. And it does set the framework or set the stage for subsequent legislation to implement these policies. And so I know we're thinking through, what are the things that are required in order to pass a budget? There are 60 votes needed in the Senate, which would mean that it gets approved at that level. And so there are a lot of decisions between now and May in order to really know how this is going to shake out. There could be another stopgap measure voted, which would again delay the budget process and discussions. But looking at your next fiscal year as an organization, looking at what percentage of your funding comes from government contracts is really critical, as what we're seeing at the federal level from firings impacting our program managers and grant managers to the state budget is really critical. So Governor Josh Shapiro in February unveiled the proposed 25-26 state budget, which totals about $51.5 billion and would also represent a 7.5% increase over the current fiscal year budget. And this also emphasizes investments in education, workforce development, economic growth, and public safety. So for education specifically, there's an increase of $75 million for basic education funding and $526 million for the Ready to Learn block grant program introduced. Workforce development would mean $5 million allocated to create nurse shortage assistance program to address nursing workforce shortage, which absolutely affects us in Southwest PA with our major hospital systems here. Economic growth, which would be $3.5 million dedicated to launch the Pennsylvania Regional Economic Competitiveness Challenge, which would support localized economic development strategies, and something that nonprofits should absolutely consider looking into in terms of partnerships with small businesses, but also applications themselves, since a lot of the work that we do is workforce training and development, and also public safety, which was an additional $10 million investment in the violence intervention and prevention grants to expand community violence intervention strategies. So the budget proposal is subject to legislative approval, and depending on the Republican or Democratic websites that you're looking at, there are a lot of modifications that are being proposed, but these budgets, or these buckets, I should say, education, workforce development, economic growth, public safety, are top of deliberation for both parties. And so looking at opportunities for different types of grant funding related to economic growth or workforce development is something that, as you're building out talking points and applications and ways to talk about the work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, thinking through their impact on the economy, since that is really going to be a talking point for the next 3 years, is critical and is a really important opportunity to take into account. Looking at tariffs, since I know that that is top of mind for a lot of folks, especially since last week. The Trump administration has enacted sweeping tariffs, including a baseline 10% tariff on all imports and higher rates up to 34% on Chinese goods, specifically aimed at promoting U.S. manufacturing and addressing trade imbalances, specifically for small businesses where there are certain markets manufactured for manufacturing abroad that do not exist in the United States. There are going to be huge economic implications. Where organizations that are where small businesses that do manufacture but do not do it en masse are going to take a hit because of these policies. And so looking at some of those impacts for us in the short term, this is where if any nonprofits have direct imported goods for operations, those will obviously face higher expenses due to the increased prices. But also looking at, those who benefit from your services, there might be some additional needs for support for folks who are hit, small business owners. So thinking through like how partnerships might be built with local chambers of commerce is really critical right now to get some additional support provided to folks in need. And additionally, thinking through, how many individuals of yours who are donors and support through small dollar campaigns or other supportive actions for your work depend on revenue from small businesses or other parts of the business sector that are going to be impacted by this. So we're seeing kind of, again, in summary to this point, right on the economic side, changes from federal funding, changes potentially from donors and small dollar donations, and also creating a climate for economic uncertainty because the tariffs do contribute to market volatility. There are fears of a recession, and because that would follow the last 5 times tariffs of this level have been implemented in the United States, which would lead to reduced charitable donations and potential grant funding as donors are becoming more cautious with their finances. And so thinking through not only what the headlines are reading, but again, how that's going to change direct impacts for your organization, but also kind of public discourse around these issues. That's what we'll be covering, in the next few weeks, especially during these calls for community solutions overviews. One thing I did want to mention specifically, because these calls for community solutions started during COVID and looking at COVID cases, Pennsylvania is experiencing kind of an outbreak of increases in measles cases, and vaccination rates in some counties are falling well below the herd immunity threshold. Brian mentioned, Light of Life is taking into account public health policies and protocols, thinking through, organizations and populations that you're serving, what your in-person versus virtual supports look like to make sure that, we're preventing the spread of disease, maximizing supports for individuals without putting their, health at risk is really critical. And so looking at, where vaccines are available, where health information is available. I know, the CDC website for COVID and other cases isn't the most up to date. So really turning into kind of like community information is really critical. And we can share some resources next week around where to get some of the not necessarily unpublished, but other information where it's located around case rates. And the impact of this is pretty immediate. So looking at preventing further spread of measles and bolstering community herd immunity is pretty critical at this point. Looking specifically at the city of Pittsburgh, and it is 10:59. If anybody has to jump off at 11, no harm, no foul. Have a great rest of your day, but I am going to continue giving updates for folks who can stay on and for the purpose of sharing the recording. Looking at the mayoral election, all four candidates have talked about the pilot program, which is a look at, how the largest 5 nonprofits in Pittsburgh are taxed and, reassessing their tax exempt status. This has been an ongoing conversation, and just context, the big 5 are University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, Highmark, University of Pittsburgh, Carnegie Mellon, and Duquesne University. The reason I'm mentioning this is not because for the majority of GPNP members, this is specifically relevant directly, because this is not, calling into question your tax exempt status. But it is going to change the narrative, at least in our immediate local region, about what nonprofit means, because some of these talking points are painting this picture of, nonprofit organizations needing to pay their fair share, having a tax exempt status, while making revenues far above the average nonprofit organization. We know that 90% of nonprofits have budgets under $1 million, and 88% of nonprofits are under $500,000 for annual revenue. And so thinking through how you're talking to donors about, this policy, and making sure that you're clarifying, again, the role of your organization, the impact of your organization, and the fact that you're providing critical services that are different than the major universities and health centers in our region is pretty critical, because we know that in the national political sphere, there's this undervaluing and lack of information about what nonprofits do and provide for communities. We know that 41% of births are impacted by Medicare and made more affordable because of Medicare or Medicaid, and that's not something that has come up as part of this conversation in the mayoral election for Pittsburgh so far. And so there's 2 things I would encourage. One, making sure that you're clarifying the value and impact of your organization, updating your 990s and annual reports and all those pieces. But 2, really talking about the differences in terms of small nonprofit organizations and large nonprofit organizations with your donors. Because as this conversation continues, perspective around nonprofits and tax exempt status are likely to shift with that, with the general population, many of whom don't think about the type of work that we're doing as nonprofit work. And so just kind of thinking through what that looks like for your organization is really critical, and getting ahead of, some of that conversation. I will pause there. I know we are 2 minutes over. I'll turn it back over to Christine as I find the link to the National Council of Nonprofits presentation. But thank you so much for tuning in this morning. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you all for joining us today and kicking off your week with us. Next week, let's see, let me go ahead and share my screen. Next week, we will have Patrick Cooper with us from Community Forge. Very excited to hear more about what they've got going on over there. We hope you have a great week, and we will see you next Monday. Thanks, everyone.